Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I will be discussing in short regarding the fourth unit of our subject, that is constitutional development, that is influence of English law in India. So basically what this unit is regarding, whatever we have learned in the prior semester, that is regarding the first semester, regarding our Muslim ancient medieval law, Hindu law, the ancient Muslim law, all of these laws, what was their influence in India. So it is basically the summary of our entire first semester, that is legal development subject, comprised into the fourth unit of our second semester. So I'll be just reviewing very shortly as to what was discussed prior to this. So first is that how English law influenced our Indian legal system and their importance of British legal principles in shaping the modern Indian laws that are existed today. So whenever we see that we don't particularly have proper laws which are created by our own itself, they have certain influence from British era, right? So we have seen regarding the ancient Hindu law based on the Dharmastra, Manusmriti and Arthashastra, which was discussed in the first semester itself. So what was the types of punishment which were very brutal in nature. Then we had the king system, that monarchy was there and the king used to decide all of those things. So in Hindi or in ancient language it was called as Danda Nyaya and Varna based justice. So whatever the Varna system was existed at that time there were uncodified laws as to the punishment of criminals. So that uncodified laws which were again mentioned in these Varna based justice, then it was given. So we all know that 4 varnas were existed at that time, and accordingly those punishment were existed. So the punishments were regarding moral crimes, that moral wrongs in the society, so such as sedition, so not exactly sedition but Rajdroha, which was called, that which is again in English is called as treason, that when someone betrays his own kingdom then he was punished for the same. And the king was the chief judge at that time, so he was the Raja. So in this entire concept of Hindu criminal law we learn the concept of dharma, which is a moral obligation, or we can say is our fundamental duties which are supposed to do as the citizen of that particular country. Then again this was regarding Hindu law. If you want to watch in detail, I recommend watching the videos of first semester to get in detail bits, but in this semester specifically these parts are very covered in short as to how evolution had happened from Hindu, Muslim and other factors to what exists now. Then next is the Muslim criminal law, which was we know there are many 2 sects in Muslim law, and Sharia based laws which were derived from Quran, Hadith and Ijma were followed in the Muslim criminal era. Then principles of Qisas and Divya, so Diya, not Divya, Diya, which means that retaliation and blood money, which we had detailed discussion in the first semester, so I recommend them again. Then what was the judges role at that time, who are the Qasis, who are the judges at that time. So basically in our Hindu system we had priests similarly who gave justice, but in Muslim law we had Qazis and Muftis who were legal experts and who gave their verdict on the same. Then punishment, there were different kinds of punishment. We had seen different types of punishment given, like Tazir and Qisas and etc. This was regarding Muslim law. Then in other parts of India, this is something new that we had not exactly discussed. Mughal law we discussed, but in previous semester regarding tribal laws, which were customary justice based on traditions. So tribals is an entire different field of study, because tribals, they used to follow different type of justice. So in Hindu law we see that some type of system is constantly being forwarded towards the next generation, but what tribal laws is, according to time it changes. So different tribes have different types of punishment system, and Maratha and Mughal influences. So basically Maratha and Mughal influences, what were the role of Maratha in giving punishment. Then Mughal regarding strict revenue and military laws, which is something which we have not discussed before. Then how British intervened in these areas and local laws were later codified. Before it was not codified, it was just a customary practice which was followed, but after the influence of British, they codified all of these laws and made them into the acts which we know today. Then again Hindu personal law. So personal laws regarding 4 topics. We have adoption, divorce, marriage and the succession of the property. So basically how did this happen? It was derived from Shruti Smriti and the commentaries, our ancient text, we derived it from there, and the British recognized this and from different school of thoughts, and then again codified into personal laws itself, and which we know that all of the rights which were not there previously were considered by British people, coming into such as the abolition of the Sati Act and all were taken up from British to this point. Then Again, growth from Muslim law, we see that Shariat Act, which was again a landmark act for the protection of Islamic personal laws. And so this exact Shariat Act gave the recognition of the Muslim personal laws, specifically what we are seeing today. Now again, the British courts were created Anglo-Mohammedan law, that is mix of English and Islamic principles. So we see that influence of Muslim personal law is there, and it continued under the British rule with different judicial interpretations. So it got evolved from the time being. Then again, the principles of justice, equality and good conscience. So we see everywhere we go, we see these three principles, that justice, equality and good conscience. So that is basically rule of law was established. So that means that no one is above the law. Basically this term exactly means that no one is above the law, which emphasized on justice, fairness and equality before the law, which means that it is the duty of the law to say to give the fact that no injustice happens and there should be a fair trial for each and every person, despite the fact where he comes from. So we see in Constitution also we have Article 14, equality before law. Similarly, that it replaced the caste based and religion based justice with uniform legal principles. So that is, uniformity was established throughout these principles of justice, equality and good conscience. So again, influence of Hindu law, we see that the codification of Hindu laws happened after British came. So we see that all of our penal laws were established again. Personal laws specifically were established, that is Hindu Marriage Act and etc. First is the Hindu Widows Remarriage Act. There is an example that I have given. Then again, British courts promoted rational approaches over religious orthodoxy. So that is in Indian society, that is basically when British came. Prior to that, every single act or law which existed was either in uncodified format or orthodox in nature. So which was entirely changed after British came, and their approaches changed into rational approaches. So they have a very dominant influence over Indian judicial system. And then again, we see that how important was the codification of these laws by the very major penal laws, that is Indian Penal Code by Macaulay's reform in 1860 or CRPC in 1861, and the simplification and the Evidence Act as well, which introduced the evidence-based justice system. So when these laws which were not codified are now being simplified, codified and written into such a language that even a normal person can be easily adapted towards this system, that was when all of these laws were codified, which carried the influence from prior to the modern era, which we see today as well, that many of the laws, though now being repealed, but most of the content which is in the new laws as well is being influenced from the previous old laws as well. These are not entirely changed. Some influence is still there because of the impact that British people have left us with. Then again, major modifications, we are seeing that abolition of the barbaric punishments. So that is mutilation, the guillotine method, all of these. Again, death penalty is also a topic of debate, whether it should be considered or not, whether hanging till death is morally correct or not. So that is a point of debate, but that is shift towards a evidence-based prosecution instead of a religious testimony, which was the major development and modification in the criminal law at that time. Then again, in modern legal system, the Indian Constitution adopted the British principle as well, that is separation of powers, then power of the courts to review the acts which are passed by the parliament, then giving fundamental rights to the citizens and following the due process of law, and criminal laws which still to this date we rely on IPC, CRPC and evidence, which are again the same acts which were passed in the British era. And lastly, we have seen that how all of our ancient and modern laws influence on today's Indian judiciary, and to this day we practice those laws which are made by British, though we say that they didn't liberate India, but still at the same time we cannot deny the fact that they had a major influence in making Indian laws. And with this I have concluded the unit 4 of our constitutional development. For more clarity on this topic, you can again watch the videos of first semester where I have covered each and every aspect in detail. Thank you so much.